Hello, everyone. A little housekeeping note before we get started. Just a quick note that we will be recording this session for future reference. You can watch it again on demand on the Wiley Science Solutions website, sciencesolutions.wiley.com, on the webinar page. Please add any questions to the questions module window, and any that were not addressed will be answered by email. Good day, everyone. My name is Mark Lucchetti, Field Marketing Manager with Wiley Science Solutions. Welcome to today's webinar entitled NMR Simplified: Process, Identify, Predict, and Database with Confidence. It is my pleasure today to introduce you to our speaker for this informative session, Software and Databases New Techniques Manager, Dr. Nadia Martina of Wiley Science Solutions. Dr. Martina is a product manager for the team where she oversees the development of new products and databases while supporting existing know-it-all capabilities. She earned her PhD in material science from Ontario Tech Universities, where she executed chemistry research using a variety of instrumental analytical techniques. We are excited to have Dr. Martina present us today her webinar entitled NMR Simplified: Process, Identify, Predict, and Database with Confidence. We encourage the audience to submit questions, which will be addressed at the end of the session. With that, I'll turn the stage over to Dr. Martina for her presentation. The floor is yours, Nadia.
Thank you for that introduction. As mentioned, I will be presenting on KnowItAll's NMR tools, where KnowItAll simplifies the workflow, making it accessible to all levels of NMR users. KnowItAll software is an interface that provides an integrated solution to identify, analyze, and manage your analytical data from different techniques. It is also home to the Wiley Spectral library collections. And just some highlighted features is that it includes expert and automated features for your spectral analysis. It is vendor neutral. We support over 130 file formats across various techniques, meaning that if you are a multi-technique lab, you could bring in raw data from your other instruments into KnowItAll as well. It is VPAT 508 accessible, and it comes in a variety of languages. Customers of KnowItAll gain access to all of these tools in one package. So that is tools for processing, structure, drawing and reporting, predictions, a functional group analysis, spectral searching, and data management, as well as access to our comprehensive spectral library collections. And we offer spectral libraries for the various techniques, including IR, GCMS, LCMS, of course, NMR, Raman, and UV-Vis, just highlighting that the NMR collection is over 1 million spectra. In KnowItAll, we aim to make, or KnowItAll does make NMR analysis approachable and easy so that users of all levels are empowered to tackle NMR problems. And we encourage you to leverage the power of our high quality databases, which we will discuss in detail in a future slide. And of course, reminding you that this software is multi-technique so that you can support multiple instruments and techniques in one interface. For the NMR workflow, we will touch on a variety of tools within KnowItAll, and these will be tools for processing, predictions, databasing, and searching, as highlighted by their icon images on this slide, as well as the slides I'm about to discuss. So to begin, we would process our raw NMR data in Process It application, which is an easy-to-use interface featuring essential tools for both automatic and manual processing of your 1D spectra. You can also make predictions in KnowItAll using our Predicted NMR application. Predicted NMR offers a hose code algorithm for your predictions, and it supports proton, carbon, and XNMR directly in this interface. And then for those more advanced NMR users, our MindIt application includes tools for data management, such as when you're storing your spectrum in the database, you can assign your peaks to structure. You can perform a multiplet analysis, including having automatic tools for that, or you can even generate your NMR report from your database record. And of course, we offer searching tools as well, so you can perform spectrum to spectrum comparisons. And KnowItAll itself has proprietary tools to improve the quality of your search. We offer different searching methods. This includes spectrum searches, peak searches, or searching by metadata such as your property or name, or even search by structure. And you can leverage your multiple techniques if you are a multi-technique lab by combining multiple spectra in your search. So for example, if you are collecting both proton and carbon NMR, you could search the proton spectrum with the carbon spectrum against our libraries to be brought even closer to the correct match. And it's not limited to just NMR by NMR when you're performing these orthogonal searches. For example, you could search proton by another spectroscopy and so on. So I've listed here the techniques that we offer libraries for, and this includes proton, carbon, XNMR, IR, Raman, GCMS, LCMS, and others that are not even listed. And here are the size of our NMR spectral databases. So we offer about 1.3 million spectra across many databases, and this is over 500,000 empirical spectra for CNMR, and then another 300,000 for computed CNMR spectra. There's over 200,000 HNMR spectra, and then over 100,000 NMR spectra for XNMR. And our nuclei that we offer are boron, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, silicon, and phosphorus. This gains access to renowned collections such as the Sattler and Wolfgang Robian libraries, but we also have add-on libraries available such as the ACE NMR, the Sigma Aldrich Library of NMR Spectra, and then our Antibase, which is the Wiley identifier of natural products, is a renowned natural product library that does contain a CNMR spectra information. So with that, we are ready to get into our live demo. So I've launched KnowItAll 2026, and before I get into my demo, I just want to give a brief introduction to KnowItAll in case you've never seen this interface before. On the left-hand side, we have this user panel that if I click on the different toolboxes, we gain access to different applications to address different parts of your workflow. So for example, today we'll take a look at ChemWindow, which is the structure and reaction drawing tool. Under data, we have tools for searching and databases that we'll be accessing. And in processing is where it will come for processing, and so on. If I could keep clicking through the tabs. But today I'm going to begin in Process It to just show you a quick processing of a raw NMR spectrum. So I'm just going to bring in my FID and then apply the Fourier transform. Now, if to simplify the workflow, you can actually just keep clicking on these icons from left to right to execute the entire workflow. So next step is the auto phase. And then if I wanted to, I could perform baseline corrections and then integrations. We also have tools for peak picking. So I'll just hit the replace tool for using the automatic tool. And if you prefer, you can also perform manual peak picking as well. So I'll just show an example of performing some manual analysis. And you can add peak labels. So at about 1.6 ppm, I can label this as my alcohol peak because I do know that is from an alcohol group. We also have tools for referencing your solvent, which I will skip past today, and be aware that we do have macro capabilities as well that you could use to process your spectra very quickly. And then as mentioned, you can integrate either automatically or manually. Just as an example, I'm going to grab a few peaks and show that the tool itself is very user-friendly. If I were to, zoom in, you would see that I have about, I think 4 protons downfield in my spectrum. And once you're done processing the entire spectrum, you can very easily actually add it into a user library. Now, the benefit of adding a spectrum to a user library is it would be a home to all of your process data so that when you are ready to look back on your NMR spectra, you always have access to the cleaned up version of your spectra. And this also means you can always locate them. So I'm going to use this option here. Under the transfer toolbar, The transfer to bar allows you to send spectra from one application to another. So in this case, I'm going to transfer it into MINIT, which is the home of our databases. And when I do so, I get this property import selection dialog that prompts for which properties I'd like to import. This is all metadata that's coming in from my raw Bruker file. And I'd like to bring it all in, so I just click OK to attach it all to the record, and I can see that there's lots of raw information in there for the file. Now I'm going to show our NMR tools. Up at the top, we have this NMR tools option, which allows me to launch this pop-up, define multiplets, and this is where I can come to analyze my multiplets to store them in the database. We have this button that's new for 2026 for HNMR data, automatic multiplet detection, that when I click it, I get a summary of all of my multiplet information. For those peaks, which are more complicated, you could manually analyze them by ungrouping the peaks and then calculating the coupling constants manually if you prefer. But just to show an example, if I zoom in here, we can see both of these sets of triplets have been correctly identified as triplets with their retrospective coupling constants. So it's a very easy to use tool, and that would be stored in the database upon me clicking save. Now, one above, I have a fully processed spectrum that I'd like to attach my structure to, because I actually do know the structure for this compound. Be aware, I'm just opening up a previously drawn structure. You could do the same, and we do support the major structure file formats, as well as things like inchy keys and smiles. So this is the structure for this particular spectrum. And at this level, I could say I want to actually assign the peaks to the structure and then store it in the database. So I click Assign Structure. And you can use this drop-down menu to assign them the peaks to the different protons. So for example, the peak at about 1.5 belongs to the alcohol. And then you can click through and assign these as desired. You can also use this lower table to assign cross-coupling. So as an example, protons 3 and 2 are cross-coupled. So if you'd like to store that information as well, we have tools for that. And then I'll just click Save to commit the changes. And when you are completely done assigning and processing your spectrum, you would end up with something that looks like this, that you can see in the corner where I've assigned all of my protons to the structure for long-term storage in the database. Now, with everything processed and assigned, I'd like to show that if I generate the multiplet report, I have all of the information for this particular spectrum summarized in a report and available for long-term storage. And you can do this for the various nuclei. You can also generate reports directly from MINIT for the various techniques, not just NMR. So to show that, I'm going to hit transfer to report it and to send this spectrum into our reporting application. And I can choose my template that I've made. We do have default templates, and you are able to make your own as well. And in this particular template, I've asked it to highlight things like my labeled structure, my NMR report, and then attach all of the metadata for the particular file. And of course, you could very easily convert this to PDF, print it off, email it, and so on to suit your needs. Okay, next we're going to take a look at predictions tool. So I'm actually going to start in Chem Window application and draw a structure for which we can make a prediction on. So just very briefly, I'll draw something that I think could be interesting. Short. And I'm going to use this transfer to bar to send the structure into our prediction application. And when I do that, I get a very quick prediction for the spectrum, and I had it set to HNMR. So you're seeing an HNMR proton prediction. So to explain how this tool works, I'm going to select maybe an interesting proton, such as that at position 7. When I click on the proton, you'll notice that the corresponding row in this table on the right has been highlighted. So I see that it's predicted to be at 6.3 ppm. You have the given standard deviation and multiplicity. At the same time, there is a tree labeled with all of the spectral records that participated in the predictions. So I can view the four-layer host code records that were used in the computation and actually click through the related structures in the database if I'm interested. Now, if you actually want to know more about the spectra that participated in the prediction, this title, which is included with each of the attached spectral records, is a hyperlink. So I can click on it and it will load that particular compound and its spectrum in a MyNet application so that you can more closely review the spectrum. I'm going to click back to return to the prediction. Be aware that you can filter or recalculate your prediction by solvents. You can curate which databases are actually contributing to the prediction, including adding your own user libraries. And as mentioned, you can change the nucleus as well for the various proton, carbon, or XNMR nuclei. The next feature I'd like to show you is some searching tools. So I'm going to begin with searching a simple spectrum in KnowItAll. So here I've queued up a spectrum and I've attached a series of databases that I'd like to be searched. I believe that's over 200,000 spectra. So we'll give this a second to execute the search. And while this is searching, I just want to point out this exclude and include in range bar. These can be used to select regions of the spectrum that you do not want to be included in the search. So for example, if there is a solvent peak that's very prominent in your spectrum, you could use the exclude and range bar to highlight it. And when we are complete with the search, what you get is something that looks like this. I'm actually going to change the display just to a little bit less of an overlay, but we see that we get a very good match for this spectrum to liminin, which is a correct identification for the search. Now I'm going to return back and talk about our other searching methods. In addition to spectrum search, you can execute peak search, which only searches by the peak location, but not their shape. Due to the nature of the data, I really like to use peak search method for carbon NMR or XNMR spectra. And then you can also attach structures or properties into your search. And as a reminder, you can also perform orthogonal searching. So I just want to show an example that I previously loaded. Here we're going to search an unknown, which has a proton spectrum displayed as such. And then a carbon spectrum, instead of searching it as a raw spectrum file, I'm going to search it as a peak search. So what I've done here is you have a peak bar and then you can just click pick, and it will create or populate the peak list for the search and search these peaks as well. Under database selection, I'm going to be searching HNMR and CNMR library collections. So with that, I'm going to click search to execute the search. And just reminding you that while I've executed this search as a proton by carbon, you could do another spectroscopy technique as well, such as IR, Raman, NEMS, and so on, to help you zero in to that correct identification. Now, when these search results load, I'll just point out that they will look a little bit different for orthogonal search compared to a one-by-one search. And that's because for orthogonal search, we actually get this auto-generated plot that helps you observe the best search result for two different spectra. So by default, the best match will be highlighted and it looks like it's dibutylamine. But if I click on these dots, it's interactive, and now I'm looking at a search result that has about a 80 a value of 80 HQI for the CNMR, and a match of about just over 60 to the proton NMR. And all of these dots are interactive to the match record, so you can click through to see what the matches are. But of course, as mentioned, it will select the best match by default, which you can see was dibutyl amine. And with that, I think we've reached the end of our live demo. So just to remind what we covered in this demonstration, we took a look very quickly at just some simple processing of the NMR spectrum. And then we introduced building user libraries for your data. And I actually forgot to mention this earlier, but KnowItAll itself uses a proprietary database format where you are not required to purchase a third-party database storage library to attach to this. We're using our own proprietary method that has been optimized for data storage of chemistry analytical data. And this also helps improve your search to have very fast searching methods. Something else that's very interesting about our user libraries is the actual original raw data file is always attached to the record, which is great for your long-term storage of your files, because in this case, let's say you wanted to get that original Bruker file back out of here, it's automatically attached to the file, and I can just click this Save As button to download it. And we also tabulate your processing history if there is any. So if I look at the file we went over earlier, we can see there was several modifications made to that particular file as documented in this table. Returning to the All Properties tab, though, you can see, once again, all of the metadata that was stored for this particular record in your user library. After taking a look at building user libraries, we went through predictions in predicted NMR. And then I showed you some searching techniques in our Search It application, particularly looking at a single spectrum proton search and then an orthogonal search that included proton and carbon. So with that, I'm going to return back to my presentation. And I encourage you that if you do have or are interested in more information, please head to our website, link below with the QR code attached as well. And I'm going to open the floor to Q&A.
That was a wonderful webinar, Nadia. We've reached the end of our presentation today. Thank you, Dr. Martina, for your time and expertise to present us your talk on NMR Simplified. Process, identify, predict, and database with confidence. We'd now like to open up the session to some questions from our attendees, which if you can please type in using the questions toolbar, that would be great. Joining us today for the Q&A segment will be Dr. Michelle D'Souza and Dr. Christina Pogel, both of Wiley Science Solutions. Welcome both.
Hello, thanks, Mark.
Okay, let's get started here. So how does a user access the libraries in the KnowItAll software?
Michelle, do you want to take
Okay,
that?
okay, I can take that. Okay. You of course you purchase a license, and then database you can access from KnowItAll either by downloading database ahead or wait for KnowItAll to download for you and just open the database. That's it.
Great, thank you, Michelle. Is this software instrument specific, or can it apply to any instrument?
Yeah, so KnowItAll is actually vendor neutral, so it's designed to work with a wide range of data from many different instruments, including those from Bruker, Geo, and also open file formats or universal standard like the JCamp DX formats.
Thank you, Christina. So how does KnowItAll account for NMR spectral variability in library matching?
Yeah, that's a good question too. We offer proprietary optimization corrections when performing spectroscopy searches. These are automatic search corrections which would be applied to the spectrum to account for spectrum variability, such as horizontal or vertical peak distortions. And optimized corrections improve the quality of the search results.
Thank you, Christina. What database format does your databases use?
So
Well,
yeah, actually, that is a bit linked to the previous question. Michelle, do you want to go
No,
or?
no, our database format is itself is proprietary, but it's very flexible. We can read a lot of files to create database, and database is very flexible. That's all.
Thank you, Michelle. Here's a good one. How do your databases compare with other commercial libraries?
Yeah, I can take that one. So Nadia actually showed some of the numbers in her slides, and we can say that overall Wiley databases are more comprehensive with larger volume. We have a total of 1.28 million NMR spectra, of which are over 500,000 carbon NMR, for example. But we also have many proton NMR and also heteronuclear NMR spectra.
Thank you, Christina. How about this one? Do you offer any novel tools for NMR of polymers?
Yeah, so we have a large polymer carbon NMR database, which could be used for spectral matching of documented compounds. And also for multi-technique labs, we have polymer analysis tools for IR.
Thank you. I think we have time for maybe one or two more. Are there any plans to introduce 2D NMR in the future to the software?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and we can say yes, that's definitely on the roadmap in a future release of the software.
Okay. Are NMR predictions sold as an add-on in your software?
Yeah,
No.
actually, that's already within the KnowItAll's predicted NMR application, and this is included in the standard analytical edition of the software. So yeah, this is already there, and the prediction tool includes all NMR nuclei.
Thank you, Christine. Here's always a very good question that we like to answer. So where can I get more information on supported instrumentation?
Okay, we have a marketing website, and one of the link is a supported format. There you can find out we support different technologies. Each technologies have a different vendor format, quite a lot. So that's available format.
Yeah, and then
Thank you.
the URL is sciencesolutions.wiley.com.
Okay.
There you can access all that information.
Mhm.
Great, thank you both. Just looking to see if we have any more in there. I think that might be it. So I think we've actually reached our end of time for today for questions. I'd like to thank our product manager, Dr. Nadia Martina of Wiley Science Solutions, for taking the time to present us our talk on NMR simplified, process, identify, predict, and database with confidence. I would also like to thank both Dr. Michelle D'Souza and Dr. Christina Pogel for joining us for the Q&A. Any questions that were not addressed will be answered by email. This presentation will eventually be available for on-demand viewing on the Wiley Science Solutions website at sciencesolutions.wiley.com in the webinar section. Thank you all very much for attending, and please enjoy the rest of your day.